Have you ever struggled to finish a book in Japanese or finished a book in Japanese and thought to yourself, there's probably more to it that I'm missing and I wish I could get it? If that sounds like you, that's why we started MAPLOPO Schoolhouse. Before I came to Japan, I was always basically working in sales and marketing. For a short time, I worked at the university. I was an academic advisor at the University of Minnesota for about 2 years, I think. Um, but I was always a sales marketing guy and always a writer. So I did that for many years. I worked at a SaaS company, software development company, just before I came. That was my last gig. And then when I came here, I kind of started out like everybody does. If you don't know what to do, you become a teacher, right? So that's why I took this certification class. And I kind of enjoy teaching. I teach on the weekends at the YWCA. When we decided to use our work as translators, as the material to teach the course, we realized that the only way to teach that sort of material would be to have a student that already had a base, a strong enough base within Japanese, within the language, in order to understand all the other things that we were going to try to teach them. So, we're using short stories by Japanese writers. But if you have no knowledge of kanji, if you have like zero knowledge of kind of how Japanese works, grammar-wise, it would be impossible for you to take our course. But beyond that, we really wanted to work with students who wanted to learn. We are all about learning ourselves. It's constantly what we're doing. My wife has like a million dictionaries over here, and she's got all sorts of things stuck in them and underlined. And she lives in a word land, and I do too, having been a writer for so long. And I think one realization I had as a teacher here was that a lot of people don't really want to learn English. So you teach English, but you're more of an entertainer for a lot of people, and it's not very enjoyable. So we wanted to work with students who really cared and wanted to learn more. And that's why we, I think, are focusing primarily on the students. They also want to finish the course, like there's a million apps out there, and those apps are driven a lot by commerce and the idea of filling up that funnel at the top and just pouring tons of new users in there, people who will download Duolingo and make it through the first 10 lessons and then stop, right? But you can say, oh, well, we have a million customers, but you really don't. We didn't want to play that game, and we didn't want to cater to the beginning audience because there's already a lot of people serving that market well enough. We didn't need to compete there. So that's probably why we made these choices. These are the reasons. One of the things that we really do work hard at in the course is catering the course as much as possible to the demands of the students. So we get all sorts of feedback like, well, could you do this, or this was amazing, but this would be great. And we're literally building the course for the students, and we know that people are learning. We have people in the course who don't even speak English as a first language. So we have a lot of a number of translators in there, and we have one woman who's from Italy, and she translates English into Italian, and she translates Japanese into Italian, and she's taking our course in English. And we have a student in Mexico, we have students from Singapore, we have Japanese students. It's crazy, actually. And it's really wonderful to kind of see the impact it has. It's a long course. It takes a while to get through, and they're still getting through it, but it's rewarding, as you're saying. Yeah. We have people who study with us just because they want to learn how to read a Japanese book in Japanese, and that's their sole reason for wanting to study with us. And then we have other people who are translators, like I said, and they translate manga or anime or light novels. We have people who translate business things, technical materials, etc. So everybody comes to the course with a different plan, and because it's and then we have people who just are studying Japanese because they want to study Japanese. We have polyglots, like I just speak 100 languages, and why not speak Japanese this year? And those people are really, really inspiring. But given that the course is totally asynchronous, you plug in or out whenever you want to. There's no timeline on the course. Once you sign up, you have access forever. Given the kind of variety of people, it makes kind of shooting at a target from a marketing and promotion standpoint a little difficult. And doubly so because the people who do sign up for our course aren't necessarily hanging out in online places that we tend to use these days to target people. So I'm always trying to think of who might enjoy the course and who might benefit from the course who's not yet aware of us. And so lately I started to think about Japan and the sort of issues that we run into here from a hiring standpoint. As a country that's trying to create like a startup culture, we're a startup basically, right? And problems that smaller companies have in recruiting people who can help their company expand outside of Japan, right? So if you run a small tech company in Japan and you want to kind of get rolling fast, you might have challenges finding coders who can communicate across borders with two languages, right? They have a development team that is mainly English speaking, and they have an operations team that is largely speaking completely in Japanese. So I thought this could be an audience to work with or to target, in a sense. And one reason why I thought they could be an interesting target is because what I read when I research this market is that these coders who are operating in English aren't just English speakers. So they live in Japan, right? A lot of these people. So they've come here, they've decided to live here. They actually do speak Japanese. But they might only speak to use JLPT reference at N3 level, maybe an N2 level. Some people are really, really experienced at N1 level. But what happens in these environments, it seems, is that because they're kind of designed, this silo is designed to operate solely in English, they don't get to use their Japanese skills. And everybody here wants to get better at Japanese for the most part. So I thought our program could be good for these folks because they could study on their own time and they could keep their Japanese fresh. And because we teach using the material of Japan's most respected writers, the material they're going to learn from is the best kind of writing that you're going to get, right? So they're not reading some textbook, this kind of mushy sentence dialogue stuff that doesn't really help you so much. They're going to read the best of the best, and they're going to read our efforts as translators to turn that into English. And learning how to write well, and coders are writing, they're writers. Learning how to write well comes from reading. And if you read a lot in English, if you read a lot in Japanese, you will become better at writing, no matter what it is. If it's a professional business email, if it's a coding, if you're working on as a coder on some sort of project, and everybody learn, and it just gets better, I think. So that's kind of why I'm looking at small tech companies, but it can be anybody. It doesn't matter. It's just a way for me to focus the sales effort in a way for now. But I do believe that they are right for this opportunity, and we would love to work with companies and bring these teams together. But as you grow as a company, especially a startup, I think you have to be mindful of how the culture needs to be nurtured. And this is one great way to do it, I think. we have a story, right? So we have Dazai's story, and we extract the vocabulary from the story in sections. So we have 5, I think, sections of the story, and within each section, we pull out the vocabulary and we put it in an Airtable. And so we have Japanese and English translation. Remember, we're translators, so we work hard at getting the correct meaning of the word. It's not just pulled from a dictionary. There's no AI in this. It's all human made. We get the vocabulary going, we put it in Airtable, then we convert that into an Anki deck. So in order to accomplish that, we record all of the definitions in English and in Japanese. My wife and I voice both of those. And that's a core component of the program, is the Anki decks. So our first section, I think, has something like 875 cards or something like that. We have, then what we do is we go through each section, and my wife looks for grammar points or expressions that are worth talking about, things that might be challenging. And so what we do is we pull those words out, and we create video modules that describe in English what this word is really about, right? How it's used. We include syntax to tell people how to build sentences. This was an example of direct feedback from our students. So because we have translators in there, they want to know, like, how do I make this sentence sing, right? What goes before what? So we started including more syntax in the videos. Then we create a companion workbook lesson. Often we hold back information to talk about in the workbook. And then practice lessons, we include passages from novels if we can, and then their translation in English, because we want to expose readers to more books. So lots of practice. Then there's a whole learning platform on Thinkific, where there's more quizzes. When the workbook is completely finished, it could really be like 4 or 5 kind of Genki textbooks. Really, it'll all be that long. Oh, and then we have a Discord community too. So
I was going to ask you about that, the community.
We'd love it. We'd love for it to be a little bit more interactive in a way. We like that it's quiet, but I feel because we have a number of professionals in there, and if this idea about working with businesses pays off in the way that we hope it will next year, we'll have more business people in there, and they can help one another get jobs. A lot of our people are not in Japan, surprisingly, but they want to come here. So one thing I'd like to facilitate for them is a way to make it here and to put their Japanese in action on the ground here in Japan. I think we can do that as we get more people in there. So no way are we in a red ocean. Of course, I do recognize that it would be foolish to say that we have no competitors, because that's not true either. We have competitors who have a lot of money to play with and have very well-known brands. However, they're not actual competitors to us. They operate in the same space that we do, and they have a voice that's louder because it's been out there for longer. But again, they're appealing to a different market segment. They're all going to be talking about how fast you can learn Japanese. And you and I know, and anybody who's really serious about Japanese knows that learning Japanese is not something you do fast. Learning any language is not something you do fast. So there is no learning of any language. There's no learning of anything fast. It's a good marketing pitch. If you want somebody to put down like $10 a month that they forget about in 4 months, it really would be impossible to duplicate everything that we do, primarily because of who we are. We are literature translators, right? Exactly. Nobody's going to duplicate that. And if they do, then they're going to get a pretty darn good course, but it's a lot of work. They're also not teachers. So literature translators are maybe translators, or not maybe, but they are translators. But are they teachers? Are they tech savvy like we are? Are they marketing and salespeople like we are? Probably not. And these are advantages that we possess, I think, that nobody else really does in this kind of unique world. And we're quite proud of that. don't stop. Would probably be my best advice. Yeah, this is the infamous intermediate plateau, right? I actually feel there's a few reasons for that. One is the material tends to run out around that level with Japanese. Some students end up going with tutors, or they totally become self-taught, and some are just amazing and become so good on their own. It's incredible actually that they're able to get as far with the limited amount of material for that level. But I think lack of material plays a part, and I actually believe that we believe that the way Japanese is taught, so what happens is you get this kind of very rocky kind of band-aid approach in a way to learning Japanese in the way they teach it, that when you progress to this level 2, there's not a lot of material that can continue to carry you forward. And so when you do start to kind of look around for things that will help you go further, you start to see materials outside of the big textbooks that everybody uses. But then it's confusing because the way that you're taught in the books previously is totally different than what you need to learn and how you need to think to progress further. If you look in the dictionary, for example, and you're trying to figure out what the stem of a word is, that's totally different than the way they teach you what the stem is in a book. It's this weird Frankenstein thing that they teach you to get you moving fast. Again, fast, I think, is the idea. And when the method was developed to teach people decades ago, that was the idea, right? Get people moving fast. But fast works, but it doesn't get you past that. And so if you want to continue, you've got to have this sort of intrinsic motivation like you talked about earlier. And it's really kind of on you to push yourself, get a tutor if that's something that you want to do. Learn as much as you can from primary source material, as how I would talk about it as a student of history, like read books in the target language, read newspapers. People here who are in the business world read newspapers, right? And some people read books, watch television, listen to music. I think music is highly underrated. A lot of people talk about film, but television actually is a little better because of the recurrence of storylines and recurrence of characters. People love to use anime and manga. I'm not a fan of either. Not that I don't like them, meaning I don't read them. So, but basically you got to just keep going, practice. Talk to people who want to talk, drink. Yeah, there you go. That would help too.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, my pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
日本語は難しいと思われがちですけれども、ゆっくりと読んでいくことでたくさん学べることがありますので、このプログラムで一緒に楽しんで学んでいきましょう。